Zoom in terms of. Hey. Squeeze in, guys, yeah?
No.
Someone quiet. It's like we're in a library or something. Has anybody got any overdue votes? Have you? Security? How much does she owe? Has anybody got any overdue votes? You alright? Yeah? Have you? Anybody else was it? Audience. You better than volunteer. Waiting for the video almost ready. You don't need it just we're good to go. Thank you for your patience. So welcome to TEDx Oldham. You don't need it just ready. Yay! I expected to go. Well, you've lost me on that one. Okay, we're expecting a day today. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to run through just running a lot first and then introduce you to some cake. So, Oldham Library, okay, we've got overdue votes. It is being live streamed, so we've probably got your face to face. So, Oldham Library, the fitting of any TEDx stage is being live streamed, it's good enough for us all to face to face. So, Oldham Library. Public libraries are spaces where people can come together, connect, be inspired, explore new ideas, develop empathy and understanding. Public libraries are spaces where people can come together, connect, be inspired. Can I just introduce you to Stephen from the library?
Can I remind everyone to make sure you hold them on silent? No flash photography is allowed, and no video recording, please. As Andy mentioned, the event is being live streamed, and it will be available on YouTube thereafter. And also urge respect for the speakers. In this segment, there will be no breaks, so we ask you to remain silent and not leave this room till 12, especially by speakers. In this segment, there will be no breaks. Those are all high speaking, but so those are all that do not. But do enjoy yourself, have lots of fun, and get ready to be inspired. Thank you.
So, loud and clear, this is a lock-in. So, can I introduce you to Oldham's Youth Mayor, Sam? Can I introduce you to
Good morning, everyone. It's exciting to have you all here at TEDx Oldham. We've got some amazing speakers with some powerful topics lined up. All of them are about how wonderful it is that nobody can create a single moment before starting to improve the world. And I've got to say, it's one of my favourites. I'm honoured to be here. When I was asked to come and deliver an opening speech, I was told it was because I'd say something inspiring. Now at first I thought, well, someone's going to underestimate my talents. Then I thought, I've got a bad habit of underestimating myself sometimes, and I've got to believe in my own ability to speak. Self-belief is an important thing. Now I don't want to sound like a cheesy self-help book, but what I've come to understand is that more than anything else, the biggest barrier to a person isn't the world around them or the things around them that hinder them, but the biggest barrier is the voice, the annoying voice in your head that's always making up excuses why you can't do it and telling you that you can't do it. And if you want to achieve or accomplish something, then you've got to shut that voice down and be determined and go and get it. Nothing is impossible. I believe that. Bringing ourselves back to the theme, I think being a part of changing the world is seen as some massive thing that only great people do. But normal people doing their own little bit of difference in their own community, that's changing the world. And we all have our own part to play. If I've learned anything on my journey to becoming youth mayor, is that there's so many opportunities and good things that are happening in Oldham. So play your own part, whether that's putting a whole TEDx event on in the heart of Oldham, to come into community events and meeting new people that you wouldn't have before, to even just picking up that bit of rubbish on that pavement that you know is your cheeky neighbours, but you'll do it anyway. Big change, it comes from hundreds of tiny steps from lots and lots of people. On that note, I was always told that life's what you make of it, and what I learned is that it's never too late to try something new and to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Believe in yourself and everyone else will too. I'd like to thank Paul for allowing me to be here and speak, and I'd like to thank everyone else for being here. I truly hope today's events and speakers inspire ideas and discussion. Thank you for listening.
And Salma's not even one of our speakers. They even have to apply. What do you think so far? Brilliant. Nobody said rubbish. Speaking of which, I want to introduce you to a really good friend at the time, somebody who's making a change, not just in the town, but also around the world. Our good friend and Oldham's very own Ruth Major.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning, TEDx Oldham. Good morning. TEDx World. How wonderful it is that we're all here today. And in the words of Anne Frank, how wonderful it is that no one needs waste a single moment to start to change the world. For 3.5 years, I've been trying to change my locality, my community, my environment, my world, by eating, sleeping, breathing and living an idea worth sharing. So TEDx Oldham, TEDx World, and everybody out there who's watching, please raise one hand. Please keep your hand up if, like me, you want to live in a pleasant, beautiful, clean and tidy world. Please keep your hand up if, like me, you're saddened to see the state of some of our streets and surroundings. Please keep your hand up if you want to make a change. Please keep your hand up if you'd like me to show you how. Please keep your hand up, because that's the hand that's going to do it. Please lower your hand. Lower. And lower. And lower. And pick up a piece of rubbish. And that's how easy it is for you to improve and influence your localities, your communities, your environments, your world. I'm Ruth Major, otherwise known as Rubbish Ruth, and I promote a campaign called One Piece of Rubbish to encourage everybody to pick up one piece of rubbish every day. Don't walk past it, pick it up, pop it in a bin. Please raise 2 hands. Congratulations for joining the One Piece of Rubbish campaign. Every single one of you is going to make a difference and improve the world. How wonderful is that? Please put your hands together and give yourselves a round of applause.
We all love Ruth, don't we? She's a major force. That was a pun. I know I've been messing with Reddy's head quite a lot now. I'm really not sorry. Is the video fair? Excellent. Has anybody heard of Chris Anderson? No. He doesn't live on Fair enough. Chris Anderson is the overall curator for TED Global, and that movement's been going for many years, and it's influenced billions of people around the world. We've actually got Chris speaking with us today. Unfortunately not live, but we've got him on a YouTube video now. Ready for him? My friend, I'd like to say, Chris Anderson.
From Kenya to Colombia, from Iraq to Korea, slums, in schools, in prisons, and in theatres. Every day, people gather at TEDx events around the world to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. Today, you are part of a global conversation about our shared future. So what is this TEDx? TEDx is an initiative of the TED Conference, a non-profit devoted to ideas worth spreading. We grant free licenses to allow TED-like events to spread globally. This event today is based on the TED Conference format and ideals, but is independently organised by your local community. So please make sure to thank the team of volunteers who worked so hard on today's event. It's their ideas, dedication and time that made it all possible. It's they who booked all the speakers, and the views you'll hear today are of course those of those speakers, not necessarily Ottens. We hope their talks spark an exciting conversation among you. It is a day for curiosity and skepticism, for openness and for critical thinking, inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you'll take out. And now, on with the show.
Chris is quite a quiet bloke. He doesn't like to shout a lot, unless the videos and speakers do the talking for him. So, why TEDx Oldham? Been asked that question a few times this morning already. Quick story for you, a bit of background. I'm Andy Hall, if you haven't already gathered. I've been asked to host and curate the talks for today. I was at Park Run. Has anybody done Park Run at Alexandra Park? I know you. I didn't get a PB that day, but it was a brilliant day because Paul just said to us on the quiet, I've applied for the license at TEDx, and I'm like, joking. It's like Christmas all over again. It's brilliant. can we get involved? And he said, would you like to get involved? How could you say no to something as amazing as that? So we went for a coffee, and he explained to him that I'd just got my big shot after years of trying to speak at TEDx Oldham, and I wouldn't be able to do 2 talks or practice 2 talks at the same time, but I really want to be involved. So Paul suggested that maybe I could host and curate it. So obviously that was amazing for me. And then we set about what our ambitions were for TEDx Oldham. Now, we're really passionate about this town. I hate that word, but it is really, really true. We love this town, and we want to put the town back on the map. So we started talking from not just a local stage, but a global stage. And the ambition has been absolutely amazing. So much so that we could have sold this out maybe 10 times within hours. With the excitement and the buzz on social media, we could have sold hundreds of tickets, thousands of tickets maybe. We've got live streaming, it is now live around the world into various watch parties, homes, into places of work, etc. So this is a huge thing. I asked Paul, why do you want to do this? And he said, the town's got so much potential, why wouldn't you do it? He even suggested that Oldham could be the next Shoreditch of the North, which I think is really ambitious. We know that we bump into people every day, I'm sure you do, who've got truly inspirational messages to share, but we never really have the platform to do it, and this is the perfect platform to do that. Paul also reminded me of something like, you're only 2 conversations away from a game changer. And we think, oh, you guys in here are game changers. You can make changes to this amazing town that we've actually got. We set about trying to curate a speaker lineup. So when it went live, we were seeing applications come in, 20, 30, 40. We're getting quite excited at this point. Reading some applications, people come from Australia, New Zealand, America. Keynote speakers who spoke in front of thousands and thousands of people. And that made it really difficult for us to choose who to have on this stage. We could quite easily get people who've already got a reputation just to boost their brand, to make themselves look better. But this is about Oldham, and this is not just about our town, but ideas worth spreading. And that's something that Paul and I have been really passionate about. We want people to share inspiration, some ideas that are going to change not just themselves and their location, the town, you, but everybody around the world. So everybody you're going to hear today has either made a big change in their lives or about to make big changes in other people's lives. These are real game changers. And it's just been a real honour to go through these 200, believe it or not, 200 applications. And everybody here who's going to speak for you today absolutely deserves their shot. We wanted to give people a really good opportunity to showcase what their message is to the rest of the world and showcase Oldham as well. So, I think we've curated a beautiful blend of speakers, amazing people, completely diverse range of backgrounds, different cultures. We've got everything here, and I'm so proud of the work we've put in so far. Having been through a similar journey myself, I can tell you that you wake up, start talking to yourself, you go to bed, you talk to yourself, you're in the car, you're talking to yourself, you're practicing, you're rehearsing, you think you're going crazy, you sit in front of your friends, and you say, can you just listen to me say this, what do you think? And you speak to your mates, and you're getting all kinds of feedback, and then you start panicking and thinking, oh no, I'm not going to be good enough, I'm going to be rubbish. It's not true. These guys have put so much work in. I've seen a few smile faces from the speakers as well. I know they're incredibly nervous, but please give them a massive round of applause now before we start. Thank you. And just out of courtesy for my speakers, we're in a lockdown situation now. There's only one person allowed to leave, and I can't see who it is. So if you need a wee, tough, we should have done before. I want to introduce the speakers now. Are you ready to hear the speakers?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. First speaker. What an application this was. Very rarely do you read an application and get moved to tears, but this is one of them. So I know I'm bigging this up, but let me just explain to you as well. The person who's about to speak today shouldn't really be speaking if you've listened to medical advice. This person is an inspiration to not just women, but all people in this town and also around the world. I want to introduce you to somebody who's become a really good friend of mine recently, Oldham's very own Joe Taylor.
morning, everyone.
Good morning.
12 years ago, I was on maternity leave. I was 38 years old, and my daughter, Farron, was 5 months old, and my son, Regan, was 2.5. We had the perfect family. This is a picture of us on a night out whilst I was on maternity leave, and the next day something would change my life. I found a lump and I went to the GP the next day on the Monday, and 2 weeks later I was told, "I'm sorry, you have breast cancer." Now, you would think from that picture that I was a competitive runner. I wasn't. I enjoyed exercise. I enjoyed running. I actually ran with my sister-in-law. She got me out running, and we would get up to about 8 miles. So I went out with my sister-in-law, and we wanted to do the Great North Run. We talked about it, and I decided I didn't want to do anything like that, but we wanted to be out exercising because it made me feel fit and healthy. It actually gave me the buzz. So 7 months later, I had surgery, chemotherapy and radiotherapy. This was actually my daughter's first birthday. A week later, I would finish chemotherapy. But I wanted to get back to exercise. I wanted to get back to running. And I had friends who also wanted to exercise as well, so I actually motivated them to get out with me. And exercise was my pill. This is what I did. It helped me, not just physically, but mentally as well. 6 years later, I created ABCD, After Breast Cancer Diagnosis. This was a website which showed people that you had information about breast reconstruction, information about surgeries, information about peer-to-peer support, links to different charities. And for me, exercise played a big part of this: nutrition, diet and exercise. It was a big part because actually what I did was, on social media, I used to post pictures of my exercise. So round Saddleworth, I would go running and cycling, and I'd post these pictures on Twitter and on Facebook. And people really enjoyed what they saw, and it actually motivated patients into doing their own exercise and taking it up. A year later, I was diagnosed with secondary breast cancer. Most of you probably don't know what secondary breast cancer is, but it's actually metastatic or advanced breast cancer. The other word for it as well is stage 4 breast cancer. There is no stage 5. I had, without me even being told by my oncologist, a 2 to 3 year life expectancy. And that's devastating. I talked to my oncologist and I wanted to carry on exercising. So when I was told about the chemotherapy that I had and the treatments what I had, I decided that I was going to start fundraising for the Christie. And the first thing that I was going to do was a bike ride. And I sat in front of my oncologist and I said, "I'm going to do the Manchester to Blackpool bike ride." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to do the Manchester to Blackpool bike ride." "That's okay, isn't it?" I said, yeah, that's fine. So in between chemo 4 and 5, I got a group of 23 other people, friends, relatives, and we actually did the Manchester to Blackpool bike ride. And I said to my oncologist, I better see you on the start line, because I really didn't think that he was going to be there. And at 9 o'clock at Old Trafford, we set out, and who turns up but my oncologist? And not just my oncologist, he brought his wife and his little boy with him. And that's actually a picture there of me on the start line with him. And we did the bike ride, and it was amazing. Finished it in about 5 hours. And I was on chemotherapy, and people couldn't believe it, what I was able to do. So from this, I decided that, and it was one of the intentions what I had already, I wanted to do what was a pilot retreat, which was an exercise retreat, and that was for other patients, people like me. And I got some funding from Greater Sport, and I held a pilot retreat for exercise for 9 patients, and they came to Saddleworth from all over the country, so Wales and Scotland, and they came and I had them cycling, running, doing Nordic walking and yoga over the space of 2 days. They thought it was boot camp. It wasn't. But I motivated these people. I wanted them to get the same what I got from my exercise. And they loved it. And exercise was a pill. There was research then coming out that actually said it was medicine. The evidence was saying that people could live better, live longer, if they exercised, and specifically for breast cancer patients. The side effects reduced. It helped with, for primary patients, it would reduce the risk of a reoccurrence like what I had, turning into secondary breast cancer. And for secondary breast cancer patients, it showed that it had reduced side effects, so anxiety, depression, PTSD, fatigue. It helped with all that. And then 2 years later, I had a CT scan. And I knew where my cancer was. I knew that I'd had an operation already to remove nodes in my neck. And then I knew that there was 2 small spots in my sternum. And unfortunately, I was at CrossFit, lifting weights, felt this pain, and I'd had a CT scan already, and my oncologist said, yeah, the CT scan's fine. I said, oh, I've got this pain. She said, we'll send you for a PET scan, and it actually showed that the cancer had progressed in the sternum. Now, he gave me an option of a surgery, and that's called a sternotomy. So I had this huge 7-hour operation, which was to remove most of the sternum and replace it. But before I had that done, I knew that I needed to continue doing exercise. And the reason for that was the prehabilitation. So getting fit for exercise, getting fit for surgery. And that was me the night before I actually went and had the surgery, and I went up to Pots and Pans in Saddleworth with my hydration drinks, having a drink, toasting it, and saying, I can do this. So I had the surgery the next day, 7 hours, as I think I've said, and I was in ICU for 2 days, and 3 days later, so a total of 5 days, after this huge surgery, I was leaving, I was out of the hospital. So to me, I knew already that I'd proved that prehabilitation worked and exercise worked for me. So, 2 years later, in 2018, I decided to apply to the National Lottery for some funding. as I wanted to again bring people to Saddleworth for the exercise retreats. And this was something that I had a passion for now. I wanted everybody to benefit from this. People came and did the cycling, running, Nordic walking and yoga. And it was a 2-day event again. And this was free to patients. Nobody paid. They actually came there for free, so I supported them. And in 2018, I actually supported around about 38 people, and I did 3 retreats. And it worked. People loved it. So 2019, I applied again for some more funding and some extra funding. So this year, I'm actually supporting 55 patients and 5 retreats. I've already done 2, got another one in another week, so. And they just love the peer-to-peer support, actually getting with other people, meeting friends that they've never met before, they may have met them online, and it worked, and it motivated people. And what you don't get told when you're actually in hospital or being told that you've got cancer is that exercise does benefit people. You're told, you know, you're having chemotherapy, oh, don't do any exercise, sit down, rest. And I found the complete opposite. I found that if I did exercise, then it helped me huge. So I also created last year a hashtag called Busy Living with METS. METS meaning metastatic disease, and this was to encompass all patients, not just breast cancer patients, to show that we could actually live and live well. When you have a 2 to 3 year life expectancy, you don't know where this is going to go, but you know that there's going to be an end point. But I'm now 5 years out from that diagnosis, and I'm still living well. And as I said, what I want to show is that I'm actually busy and busy living. And you know, you can have surgeries, and if you can get access to great treatments and new drugs, then actually you can live really well, and quite for a longer time than what you are told. So this was one of the quotes that one of the ladies actually said. I get feedback from the patients, and they just think it's wonderful what I do, and for them it's huge support. And this is actually what I say to people when they come on the retreats. It doesn't matter how fast or how slow you are, but you will be lapping everyone on the couch. So this is another quote as well by my oncologist, and basically he said to me, the number of patients harmed by exercise is 0, the number of patients having a worse or a poor outcome due to the lack of exercise is countless. And that is the message. And exercise really is a pill. Thank you.
She's beautiful, isn't she?
Yeah.
So proud of what Jo's done. Some people just seem unlucky, but work through it. Speaking of luck, don't you just wish you could just get a break once in a while? You know, win the lottery, get that dream job. You just think things would just go well for you from time to time. Well, we read an application from somebody a few weeks ago, and it was just niggling us. Paul and I were just like, it's just niggling us. You know, there's something about this person here, I just want to hear them speak. So, I'm rubbish at football, by the way. When I played football, I was always on the bench. So I contacted this guy and he said, just put me on the bench and I won't let you down, I promise you. I won't let you down. I work harder than everybody out there. So I invited him along to the rehearsals and he just blew us away. He's one of the most humble people you'll ever meet. I want to introduce you to somebody who's going to tell you just how to be lucky. That's Sean Brown.
secret to being lucky. When I think back, for the majority of my 29 years, I felt like an imposter. Even when I was 1 or 2 years old, my mum even dressed me up as an old man. But there's something about the word imposter. It has some quite negative or strong connotations to it that don't quite add up to being lucky. But I used this and endured through the feeling of being an imposter that led me up to this point where I am now the founder and CEO of a quite a successful tech company in Greater Manchester. It's a position that a lot of my family and friends probably consider as being lucky. But what people perceive as luck, I see as a series of stepping stones throughout a life of adversity, which I've overcome. So I'm here on this stage today to try and help you tell the story about how I got here. So let's take it all the way back to the beginning, where my mother was a landlady of this glamorous pub in Coventry. But in all seriousness, growing up above a pub wasn't the easiest upbringing. It was quite tough. I was happy, Mum, but it was tough. My schooling, I wasn't really engaged in school and I didn't really care for it. It's all summed up in this glowing review from my head teacher, which said, "He will either end up in jail or in the army as cannon fodder." My passion laid with the ocean, which is quite ironic considering Coventry isn't exactly a coastal town. So while all of my friends were getting ready to go to university, I was working scrubbing dishes in the pub to make sure that I could save up enough money for a one-way flight to Australia, where I had the big hopes and dreams of becoming a dive instructor on the Great Barrier Reef. What the hell is a guy from Coventry trying to dream to be a dive instructor on the Great Barrier Reef? Of course I was an imposter. My family and friends thought I was crazy. Now you can't exactly just turn up to a dock with a scuba tank attached to your back and say, "Hey, I'm ready to go." You need to certify yourself. You need to train. But of course, I was a pot washer. I didn't have any money to be able to do that. So while I figured it all out, I had to go and get a job in a backpacker hostel, not in exchange for money, but just for food and accommodation. And it was really glamorous. Especially when Stacey walked in 40 kilos down at 4 a.m. in the morning. But then I had to go and search for a dive company that would accept me to be a free volunteer in exchange for all my dive certifications up to dive master. So when I found one, I went to them and I oversold myself to the point of pure passion, and they gave me the job just to shut me up and get me out of the door. But this is the picture that my family and friends saw back home. They saw the lucky guy. How the hell have you gone from here to here, diving on the Great Barrier Reef? They only saw me as lucky. They didn't see that when I would turn up to that dock at 6 a.m. every single morning, and I'd work for 12 hours a day and come back to that dock at 6 p.m, and then I would run as quick as I could over to the bar and start my shift at 7. And I would work throughout until 1 a.m. in the morning, giving up everything that a backpacker, a young 19-year-old should be doing, just so I can certify, eat, and live. They didn't see the hard work that went in. Everyone discounted that fact. Now, as soon as I was certified, I took a boat over to the exclusive Hamilton Island. Now, this island is for the rich, it's for the famous, it's for the glitz, the glam. Not a place where a lad with a Coventry accent and was a bit rough around the edges should be turning up to and say, "Hey, give me a job." Which they declined, by the way. They said, "No, you've had a year experience, less than a year experience. You shouldn't really be on this island." But I pleaded with them. I said, "Look, I'll work weekends, I'll do whatever it takes to get the job." So they gave me the job. I thought, great, how lucky of me. And it was working on these weekends that a lady came into the dive shop and she wanted to learn how to scuba dive. So I took her down to the pool and I did an introductory dive for her, just teaching her the basic skills. And then she booked onto the boat and had a great time the next day. That lady turned out to be Kate Hudson. How lucky for me. But Kate inspired me that I wanted to do more with my life. She told great stories while we were just hanging around on the boat. So I didn't want to relax in my newfound comfort zone. I pushed myself again and I went to Koh Tao in Thailand, where now I didn't want to be a dive instructor, I wanted to be an underwater videographer and create stories of underwater that I can show to the masses. But the night before I was set to start my job as an underwater videographer, I was robbed. I woke up to see two people at the bottom of my bed, two silhouettes, and I got out and went, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I ran down the street after them as they ran out in my tighty whities. And I got 50 yards down and thought, "Oh, what am I doing?" And they got away. And I went back to my room and found out everything was gone. Everything. Money, my laptop, my passport, and most importantly, my dive equipment, all gone. Now, not one to... Oh, I didn't even have enough money to call home and say, "Dad, can you bail me out?" I didn't have that luxury of a penny to even put into a phone box. So the next day I had to figure it out, and I woke up and went down to Syrie Beach and walked along to every single dive shop along there, asking for a job. Rejection, rejection, rejection. I finally got to one dive shop that says, "Actually, someone turned up drunk, so we had to fire them. Do you want to teach these 7 students?" Oh, great, how lucky. I did a good job and I stayed there for a few more months. But then, remembering back to Kate, I thought, I want to teach the rich and famous to dive. I want to go on the big super yachts, the 100-metre yachts around the world. I want to travel and earn money in style. But who was I to think that? Crazy dreams. I told my family and friends that I was going to go to Monaco and spend all of my money that I saved up on this island. And they thought I was crazy. So you don't belong there. You need to have contacts to get a job for a billionaire. I says, well, no, I don't. And actually, I went along the dock, shouting over the back of the boat, "Can I be a dive instructor, please?" One said yes. Maybe you didn't. Apologies. One said yes. And the picture that my family and friends saw was this. They saw that me in the hot tub on the back of an 86-metre yacht in Thailand again, teaching billionaires and celebrities to dive. They didn't see that when, after work time, I would go into the cabin and be stuck at anchor on a boat, while all my friends were out going on lads' holidays, and then my family needed support because we had illnesses and deaths, that I couldn't actually go and spend time with them because I was on anchor, and I couldn't get to them. It looked great on the outside, on the inside there's something missing. That something changed. Something really changed and stopped all of this life when I went back to the UK to study to do my yacht master. And I met my girlfriend Hannah. And Hannah changed everything. I wanted to become... I was all about the individual. I was all about me. But when I met Hannah, I had to refocus my aspirations in life, and I needed to do something more that was just for both of us, create more than just exciting memories. So I needed to go to London and get a new job as a salesman. So I applied for anything, and they came back to me and said, you need a minimum of 2 years experience, and you can go and create your sales story elsewhere and bring it to us later on. Now, I didn't quite accept that. As you know, by when I was in Hamilton Island, I turned back and said, "I'm sorry I can't fit your criteria, if I could politely object." And I gave them a list of reasons why I'm better than anyone else on the street from London. They gave me the job. And then it was at this point where I realised I don't want to be a salesman. While I was down below the decks on the boat, I did have an interest in technology and taught myself to code. So then, while in this job, I started moonlighting and built a platform called Hatch. And it was while pitching Hatch to the different agencies around the UK that one agency said to me, up in Manchester, that we want to acquire that technology and we want to acquire you. So I told my missus, I said, look, we're moving up to Manchester, and she was fine with that because all of her family are from the north. So we moved up here, made a big, big risk to come up here, and I found myself in a job that actually I didn't quite enjoy. So I set aside again, moonlighting and working as hard as I could, new dreams to create a tech platform called Mercato. And it was with Mercato that I was fortunate enough to meet someone that would really change my life and really inspire me, and ultimately invest into Mercato, and his name is Lawrence Jones. He's a huge tech entrepreneur in the UK, particularly up in the northwest. And he's a personification of what people on the outside look in and think, he's been quite lucky. He's been on a self-perpetuating journey to get to that position he's in. But everyone discounts the fact that him and his wife, Gail Jones, would work for 18 hours a day for 20 years straight to get to where they are. And together we worked hard on Mercato, and we built it up within a year, this last year, to get multiple users onto the platform and 2 huge clients, giving us quite the headline. And the ability to grow such a beautiful and passionate team. And now, with all my story told, my lucky story told, I want to leave you with this thought. If I had not gone to Australia when I was 18 years old, if I had not worked for 18 hours a day to try and get that dream job as a dive instructor, if I had not then taken that risk to go to Hamilton Island and fought back so I can work weekends to then meet Kate Hudson, if I had not then risked it all again to go to Koh Tao in Thailand, got robbed by those thieves, if I had not done that and then gone back, if I had not done that and gone back to Monaco, where I could go and be a dive instructor on the super yachts, if I had not pushed myself and then met the girl of my dreams and then had to reformat my whole life to get a job as a salesman, if I had not done that and then made the big risk to go and code and create a new platform on the side, to then make the big risk and a big move to come up to Manchester, and then to then not like that job and build another product, if I had not then gone on to meet someone that would change my life, if I had not done any of those things, if I had not pushed myself into the positions where I felt like an imposter, if I had not gone through all of that adversity, yeah, on the outside my friends saw me as lucky, I would never have been lucky. So my message to leave with you today, what is the secret to being lucky? Well, there is no such thing as luck when it comes to your dreams. You are the one that needs to get up and set those goals, set those dreams and go after them. It doesn't matter what anyone says to you. You have to go and create your own opportunities, and when those opportunities present themselves to you, you have to reach out and grab them with both hands and never let go. That is the secret to being lucky. And I think Gary Player sums it up quite nicely, that the harder you work, the luckier you get. You are the secret to being lucky. But I want to leave you on one final thing, is that never would I ever feel as lucky as I do today to be able to share the stage with so many amazing speakers that you'll see today. And also in front of such a beautiful and good-looking audience. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah. Did we get the right one there? Yeah. The bench. Brilliant. I'm just going to check with the technical team. Is the clicker working? Is that a nod? We've got a nod. It's all right. It's a relief. High fives all around at the front there. Okay, so the next speaker we have absolutely blew our mind with this application. And it was just incredible to read it, because the idea was huge. It's not just a small idea, this is an actual global change. It's a big task, but not an impossible task. What is almost impossible is that the person who makes CSV is probably one of the best speakers here today, no pressure. But she's actually just 15, and she's all the way from Oldham as well. The talk is "The Cure for Climate Change is the End of Capitalism," and this is the incredible Heather Price.
Hello, my name is Heather Price. I'm 15 years old, and I'm here today to suggest to you all that the only way to save our planet is to end capitalism. When I was 7 years old, my dad took me on a walk to the top of Wampton Hill, overlooking the Mersey Basin. As we looked down on our village, street lights blinking on as dusk drew nearer, he turned to me and said, "Heather, one day all of this will be underwater." I was very confused. I mean, how could this be possible? We were miles away from the coast. It was at this point that he told me about climate change. He told me about how fossil fuels being burned were slowly killing our planet. It won't happen in your lifetime though, he reassured me. But right now, Earth's temperatures have risen to an all-time high. France has recorded temperatures of over 45 degrees Celsius, causing 4,000 schools to close. This is not normal. This is not natural. And yet we continue to drill into the earth and tire her of all her natural resources. Australia has recently planned to open coal mines in Queensland that are as big as the UK. Why? Because there are vast sums of money that can be made from this industry. Now, I'm sure many of you have seen the brilliant talk by Greta Thunberg about climate change. At the end of her talk, she says that in order to save the earth, the rules have to be changed. I believe that the only way to change our climate is to change the basic way our world works. We have to put the needs of our planet and its people before making money. As school students, we are often told that we need to pass our exams in order to be successful. But how do we define success? Currently, society bombards us with messages that success means earning as much money as possible. This is capitalism. This is wrong. This is dangerous. This is the ideology that is killing our planet. Big businesses want to be successful. And by this I mean, yes, you guessed it, they want to make as much money as possible. One way manufacturers can maximise their profits is by using cheap materials to make commodities and clothes. They make things that are not designed to last, but are instead made to be thrown away. Because when you throw something away, you buy another one, and then the cycle continues. According to a 2018 survey, the average person in the UK considers a piece of clothing old after less than 2 months. Last year, people in Britain have binned £12.5 billion worth of clothes. Now, while the drivers of capitalism gain from this, we do not. The landfills get bigger and bigger and bigger. The oceans get filled with more and more plastic. And the toxins from the landfill leak into our environment and contaminate our food. The plastic in the ocean suffocates the sea life, which then endangers our food chain as a whole and reduces the amount of oxygen in our atmosphere. Another example is how oil companies want us all to use fossil fuels. Not for efficiency, but because there are millions of pounds that can be made from this business. They care more about those millions of pounds than the polluting gases that are being released from these fossil fuels that cause the greenhouse effect that is making our planet warmer. They know that these non-renewable energy sources are killing our planet. They know that these gases cause natural disasters. They know that these natural disasters, like hurricanes, hit the poorest people in the world hardest, which creates thousands upon thousands of climate refugees whose homes are destroyed. Is this success? Is this success? I don't think so. So, what can we do? Now, you might be thinking, well, I can't do anything about capitalism, so I won't act. But it is crucial that we act now. If we continue to do nothing, then we are part of the problem. We continue to feed the fat cats. But we can be the solution. The main goal has to be to overturn profit-driven capitalism, where the big players win and the ordinary people and the planet lose out.
But as there's no overall leader of capitalism, we have to all change the system that we're part of. Start by refusing to buy the cheap goods churned out by wealthy manufacturers who pay insufficient wages to the poorest people, and then make a conscious decision to own less. Socrates once said that the secret to happiness is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less. Once we do this, success is no longer who has the most money, but instead it is supporting people and sustaining the planet. And so, in the words of Laura Piddock, to the capitalists who uphold this harmful and unfair system, you are on borrowed time. It is time for you to change your business plan, and it makes sense to. If you don't change to a more sustainable way of working, then your profits will see the consequences, and so will your reputation. Take the tourist industry. If naturally beautiful landscapes are continually destroyed by pollution, then the appeal to visit these places will decline, and so the profits will also follow this. As a society, if we want businesses to stop destroying our planet, if we want to make the system more sustainable, if we want to destroy capitalism, then we must also dismantle corporate politics. For example, in the last general election, the Conservative Party manifesto pledged unprecedented support to the oil and gas industry, after receiving over £390,000 from oil company bosses. As long as our government continues to support this damaging industry, they support the destruction of our planet. This has to change. So, what do politicians respond to? The electorate, lobbyists, our voices. We can influence Parliament to introduce a tax system that punishes the heavy users of fossil fuels, but is benevolent to those who use alternative energy sources. Now, as I come to the end of my talk, I want you to remember, more than anything, we have to change the way we see success if we want our planet to have a future on. What if, instead of seeing success as who has the most money, we see it as who is making a positive contribution to our world? A world where we all share resources, so everyone has food, water, shelter and happiness, instead of the 1% living lives of luxury while homeless people sleep on the streets. We all have the responsibility to stand up to the big businesses who take from our earth in order to line their own pockets and say enough is enough. We have to demand that they stop what they're doing. We have to demand that they give back. We have to demand that they care. We have to demand that they wake up and smell the fossil fuels. Because we shouldn't care about money. We should care about people. We should care about the planet. I represent the youth, and we want our future. Thank you.
Goosebumps. Did you feel that energy then? That was amazing. So remember, 19th of July 2019, you were here when Ed Price did her famous talk. Hashtag TEDx Oldham, hashtag Ed Price. That was unbelievable. The journey we've seen over the last few weeks has been incredible, and we've got futures down in our hands, I'm sure you'll agree. Some of the greatest thinkers of our time have tried to define what genius means. I think our next speaker is almost in the same league as Albert Einstein. That's my opinion because he's my friend. He's come all the way from Bangalore, India, by Didsbury, to Oldham. His talk is quite simply complex, needn't be complicated. My good friend, Mr. Ram Shankar.
I must have been about 8 or 9 years old when I went to an airport for the very first time in my life. So my mother took me to the airport so that we could pick up my dad, who was coming home after a series of business trips. Now, happy family reunion apart, I saw 2 incredible things happen that day. Incredible thing number 1, a gigantic aircraft taking to the skies in a smooth manner. Incredible thing number 2, another gigantic aircraft coming back to the ground, almost feather-like gliding back on the ground. I was hooked. Since that day, I wanted to fly a plane. But then I had to wait another 30 years until April this year to be able to do that, thanks to my wife Gayatri, who bought me a flying lesson as a gift for my birthday last year. Now, whilst we were waiting for the flying instructor to make his final checks and everything, I couldn't stop looking at a set of dials and gauges and controls in front of my eyes, and I found the entire layout incredibly complicated. I wasted no time, looked at my instructor and I asked him, Greg, this cluster of instruments that I'm looking at, it's so complicated and confusing, how do you cope with it? His response was, I agree with you, Ram. He didn't even look at me, by the way, he was doing his thing. I agree with you, Ram. To you, it looks confusing and complicated, but to me it's not. I do it on a daily basis and I'm used to it. I know exactly why the instruments are where they are. Everything makes sense to me. Having said that, he continued doing what he was doing without realizing he had planted a thought in my head. A thought that festered. Now, what I was thinking was it really complicated or was it simply complex and I had confused it with something being complicated? I mean, let's face it, life is complicated. The world we live in life is complex, the world we live in is complex, and we think it's complicated, just as I mystificated just now. The systems that form part of us, biological, neurological, psychological, and physiological, and the systems that we form part of, social, political, economical, industrial, and cultural, all these systems are incredibly complex, making the world a complex place to live in. However, we as humankind have come this far in this world, haven't we? Which means it's not complicated, it's complex. Straight away, I went on a journey down memory lane to being born in India, to growing up there, studying subjects like physics, maths, and engineering, making my journey to the UK almost 15 years ago, studying my master's, setting up my company, and all the incredible experience and the journey I had leading up to that cockpit at that very morning. And then I was thinking, I was born in a country like India, which is one of the most complex cultural countries in the world. Anyone here been to India? Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So, India is today one of the largest and fastest growing economies in the world, but it's also a country where cultures, traditions, customs, cuisines, and languages, not just accents, languages, change within a 15-mile radius. It's also a country where you need a minimum of 3 days and a few thousand people to call an event a wedding. Here we call it Glastonbury. It's also the country where one of the largest slums in the world is also a self-sustaining microeconomy. And it's a country where time takes its own sweet time to the point your hot coffee goes cold and your cold coffee goes hot or warm. So I thought, but having grown up in a country like that, life is going to be easy for me. But more on that later. But I'm going to talk about the world's favorite subject here. Hands up if anybody here really loves mathematics. Yeah, that's good. That's what I expected. I would have panicked if everybody put their hands up. That's good. So I was one of those fortunate or unfortunate people who fell in love with mathematics due to a large part because the people who taught me the subject taught me in a very nice way. And it made me realize that mathematics isn't all that difficult to learning a language. You know, you have certain rules, you have certain things that are fixed, and you have certain things that you can vary. You use a combination of these things, and you can put up statements, prove or disprove statements, and everything will make sense. That's as simple as that. I mean, did I mention to you that I grew up in India? I've not, have I? Yeah. So, growing up in India, I grew up learning one of the most complex languages known to humankind, English. It's a language where CUT is cut, but PUT is put, but PUTT automatically is put. It's a language where the plural of mouse is mice, but the plural of spouse isn't spice. Now try explaining that to a non-native speaker of English. I dare you. So I thought, if I can deal with English, maths is going to be a piece of cake. And so I moved on in life, studied mathematics, studied engineering, and then eventually I took off from my country, India, and my hometown, Bangalore, and I got a flight apparently to the middle of nowhere, which is like a blank space. You should be seeing a blank space on the screen. But if you're not seeing a blank space, so I came to the city of Sheffield to study my master's in engineering, but my adventure was about to begin. So I landed in Manchester, and I was trying to find my way to go to Sheffield. And I did my immigration, picking up my luggage and everything, and I was figuring out how do I get to the city of Sheffield. I saw this customer service guy in the distance. Walked up to him straight on. Can you tell me how to go to Sheffield? You must know the fact that there was no hello, no good morning, no how are you, no please. The guy looks at me squarely in the face and said, I will help you, sir, but can you please wait in the queue while I help these other people? I was stunned. Queue? What's that? I grew up in India, we don't queue. We don't play rugby either, but everything where you need to be queuing up is like a big scrum in rugby. The stronger you are, the better your chances of winning. Just to make my point clear, what you see behind you there should be a queue, right? That is also a queue. See what I mean? It was incredibly confusing. But I got my lesson. I was told to queue up. Queued, got my instructions, and then I went to the counter to pick up my tickets. Now everything that happens here on also is entirely true. Believe me, you cannot write this thing. So I go to the counter. This lovely gentleman behind the counter looks up at me and he says, "Are you all right?" I panicked. Do I not look all right? What's wrong with me? Am I sick? Do I need to look at the mirror? Because in India, when you ask somebody, are you all right? It's either they are sick or they are too drunk, or to cut a long story short, they really shouldn't be in public. So I just looked at him and asked him, what do you mean, am I all right? Do I not look all right to you? Truth be told, I was a little bit offended. Plus the man, he told me, are you all right, is a perfectly normal greeting in the UK. Lesson number 2 learned. So I can ask anybody if they are all right. Are you all right, Oldham? Yeah. Nice one. So, got my ticket. Yeah, that's another one I learned. So, got my ticket, boarded the train, came to Sheffield. On the journey to Sheffield, I was just thinking over what I should be doing next when I get into Sheffield. And I remember clearly all of my friends explicitly telling me, no matter what you do, don't ever get into a black taxi. Keep that in mind, people. Fair enough. Came to Sheffield, got out of the train, went to the taxi rank, and guess what? I applied my lesson learned earlier in the morning. I queued behind everyone. And then when it was my turn for a taxi, I let 6 of these black taxis pass before I boarded one of these. Right? Now, this is true. It happened to me. I don't mind sharing this with you. Right? And then when I arrived at my destination, it got better. I told my friends, hey, listen, tell you what, I followed exactly what he told me. I didn't get a black taxi, I got an orange taxi. Everyone there was like, you idiot, they're all black, regardless of what color they are. I didn't know back then that orange was the new black. Right? And you would think, now, what I went through needn't be something as complicated as this to understand what's going on in life. Imagine everyday situations in life, you know. Do you remember the time when you had to go through a set of doors and you didn't know whether to pull or to push? Do you remember the time when you tried to plug in a USB stick onto your computer, you don't know which way it goes, and you go, it's a bit of a fight. Remember the time when you had a lovely curry and you tried wondering, how does somebody cook something like this? Or how many remote controls do you have at home? How do you know which remote for what, and how long did it take you to figure that out? And have you been in a public toilet with a sink, with a little device right in the middle, and you don't know whether to turn it left or right for hot or cold, or whether you need to turn a lever, or whether you just need to flap your hands? Simple everyday things sound so complicated, don't they? Right. I admit, I'm not an idiot, I admit I have my moments, but clearly I couldn't have been an idiot and made it through all these years of my life, could I? Then I started thinking, maybe it's not me. It's the situations I am faced with that make me look like an idiot. So next time you feel lacking in a situation like this, trust me, it's not you, it's what you're faced with. But then I also realized I had been facing up situations like this all my life, and I had dealt with them, learned things, and moved on. But the only thing is, I had forgotten to put a label to it, but then I started doing it now. I discovered a 3-step process to do it. It's called Mum's the Word. Step 1 is manage, which is I started managing my feelings, my emotions, and how I was feeling. Was I feeling something being too difficult? Was I feeling that something was different than what I was used to? Was I feeling that something didn't make sense? Once I've managed my feelings, I went to the next stage, which is to understand. At this phase, I was trying to understand why I was feeling what I was feeling. If something felt difficult, why did it feel difficult? If something felt different to what I was used to, what parts of it were different? And if something didn't make sense, why exactly didn't it make sense? Once I'd done the understanding bit about the relation between how I was feeling and why, stage 3 was to master, which is MUM, master. This is basically all about how do I find the tools, the resources, and the learning. Because they are 2 different vehicles. What you see is going to be different. Then I also asked my instructor what they stood for. Then I went and looked up all the fora and online information and instruction manuals, and I realized after some time that what I was seeing made perfect sense. I'm assuming you see the 3 boxes, yellow, blue, and purple. So let's see what they mean. One of the boxes, what you see is going to be different. Then I also asked my instructor what they stood for. Then I went and looked up all the fora and online information and instruction manuals, and I realized after some time that what I was seeing made perfect sense. I'm assuming you see the 3 boxes, yellow, blue, and purple. So let's see what they mean. One of the boxes, what you see is going to be different. Then I also asked my instructor what they stood for. Then I went and... Now, my main reason for being taken aback was how could 3 words, are you all right? 3 words in the same language mean different things in different countries. I was confused. And then I realized that all I need to do is put a bit more effort into living in this society and in this culture. I had to be curious, I had to ask questions, I had to put in all the effort to understand and master how it is to live in this culture. I was doing all these things in the classroom, trying to gain proficiency over my subjects I was studying. If I can do it in the classroom, why can't I do the same thing in society to get a better grasp over my immediate future, where I was going to live and work, perhaps? Once I applied that, it makes perfect sense to me that when I tell somebody, are you all right? It means a normal greeting. I'm used to it, and I can ask people, are you all right? And I don't feel uncomfortable when somebody asks me. Same thing about taxis. I know they're all black, no matter what color they are, red, brown, green, orange, they're all black taxis. And I also know that I could pick up my phone, call for a taxi, and it will come to where I am. But if I don't even want to talk to anybody, I could pick up a phone, put an app, use the app to call a taxi, it will come to where I am. So what seemed complicated now feels achievable. Now, let's go back to the USB stick. So you see the red bit, that's the USB stick. When you try to stick it in, all you need to do is ensure that the red thick bit goes into the bigger gap on the USB. No matter what device you're plugging it in, I figured it out. And the secret to making a good curry, the right ingredients, the right quantity, and the right timing in which they go in. Done. You can master it. It's as simple as that. Right? Now, what is my message that's worth spreading? What's the idea worth spreading? As far as I'm concerned, the idea worth spreading is what's complex needn't be complicated. And with a little bit of mum, which is manage, understand, and master, anything can be made achievable rather than being complicated and difficult to achieve. Now, why is this important? It's important because we need to give hope a chance. And also perhaps to assure people, all of us, that everything is achievable and there is always a way to figure things out without complicating anything, no matter how complex they appear to be initially. Thank you for listening.
Hilarious, isn't it? Spend half an hour that day, just laugh all the time. It's absolutely brilliant. I owe you an apology. I should have said earlier on, I was getting daggers about this. I was wondering what I've done. We have Q&A for one more speaker, and after that we have a Q&A. And in that Q&A, we'd like to introduce or invite you to ask questions of the first 5 speakers you've heard this morning. To do that, you can actually go on your mobile phone, that's permitted in these circumstances, and go on to TEDx Oldham. And there should be a link there. I'm looking for somebody technical to confirm that. But I'm not seeing one. Is it? Thanks, Paul. That's Paul, by the way. He's a real person. So, go on TEDx Oldham, go on navigation, you'll find a place where you can ask questions for the first speakers. We'll do the same again this afternoon as well. And if you are using social, TEDx Oldham, hashtag TEDx Oldham. So what do you think so far, first 4 speakers? Yeah? Is that good enough for you? Yeah? Right? Might as well go on. I wouldn't do. This next speaker has been absolutely invaluable to us, not just based on her speaking ability and the message that she's got, but the energy that she brings as well. But she brought us all together. The times when I've been panicking in the background, we've all been panicking in the background, she just brought us all together. And I don't know how she does it. It's just something magical going on with this person. She's already created a movement in our local area and around Greater Manchester. She changes how people think, how people move, how people do things, and even what people wear on their feet. She wants to change the world in a good way. She wants to change you too. The talk is called The Power of Active Souls to Change the World, and this is the wonderful Hayley Lever.
Thank you. We were all designed to move, but our modern world has been designed and organised to keep us sitting still, just like you are now. So please stand up. You've been sat for too long. Give yourselves a shake. Shake your arms, that's it, brilliant. Take a seat. We are all designed to move, but our modern world is designed and organised to keep us sitting still. At our desks, in our cars, on our sofas, glued to our phones, our TV and our games. Inactivity is killing us, and in the meantime, it's making us sick and unhappy. Our addiction to, and obsession with, and lack of alternatives to the private car are choking us and our communities. This is not right. But the great news is, it's all within our power to change. Put your hands up if you've experienced any of these things in the past few days, weeks and months. Lots of us. It's all too common, isn't it? Now raise your hand again if you have... Raise your hand again if you've used any of these things to help make you feel better. Me too. More often than I would care to admit. But what if I told you that there's something that you could do every day that would make you feel better today and every day? It would help with most things that you go to your GP with. It would help reduce your risk of developing long-term conditions like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, arthritis and depression.
And if you live with these things, it will help you to live better too. It'll help your children to do better in school, it'll improve their confidence and their well-being. It'll help you and your productivity at work, and is even shown to boost your earning power. And if we all did more of this thing, more people would be out and about in their communities, connecting with each other, less people would feel lonely. We could reduce air pollution and congestion and help to tackle climate change. This simple thing is available to the vast majority of people, and I'm lucky enough to have discovered it years ago. And that's why I'm here today, because I want to share this passion and what I know with you, so that you can find it too and share it with other people. This simple thing, this miracle solution, this wonder drug, is human movement. How do I know it works? Because like you, I too experience all of those emotions on the screen. I'm a working full-time mum of 3, I'm a wife, a daughter, a sister, a colleague and a friend. I too experience bumps on the road on the journey through life. But I know, when I'm feeling low, that if I just put my trainers on and head out of the door for a walk or a run, I feel better, without fail. It doesn't take very long, I don't have to go far. I feel more relaxed, energised and happier. This is Big Stone. This has become my place to go. I can see this hill from my kitchen window and it draws me out. I'm really lucky to have found friends over the years who know the power of this place too. On our walks and runs together, we have shared our best times and we've shared our worst times. We have listened and supported each other. We've cried on Big Stone. We have celebrated and laughed. It's the place to go for all of us. Now, not everyone has Big Stone out of their kitchen window, I realise this. But even when I'm working in town, even when I'm working in town, without fail, when we get to Big Stone, we feel like this. That one. Relaxed. Or this. Energised. But like I said, not everyone's got Big Stone on their doorstep. But even when I work in town, I can find canals and rivers and squares along the way. If I walk from place to place between meetings, I feel relaxed, more energised and happier, and everyone can find a place like this somewhere near where they live or work. The evidence is clear. Brisk walking is good enough for most people. Everyone can move more than they already do, and guess what? You're never too old to start. Going from nothing to something regularly is the biggest health benefit you can gain. And we can all do something, can't we? Yeah. So bring to mind a place that you could go, near home or near work, where you could move more, where you could find somewhere to feel more relaxed, energised and happier. I hope this is inspiring you to want to move more and motivating you. But let's face it, like I said before, movement has been designed out of life and it needs to be designed back in. We're not going to create an active whole population just by some of us changing our individual choices and our individual lifestyles. We would need to redesign places, systems, policies and culture if we really want to get a whole population active. But what if we could change the health and happiness of this whole town? What if we could change the health and happiness of the whole of Greater Manchester, the nation, or even the world? How amazing would that be? And how really simple it is. Because we need to change culture, and culture is easier to change than you think. Because you can change culture simply by changing the conversation. And conversations, believe it or not, do change the world. I'm going to share a story with you that shows just how powerful culture can be, and simply by changing the conversation can have such an impact on people's lives. 2 years ago, I started a new job in the city, in Manchester. For the first time in my career, I was able to take the train to work. I could ditch the car. It was brilliant. I soon realised that walking to the station and to my office in trainers was far more appealing than walking in my office shoes. But when I arrived at work, I felt I needed to change back into something smart again. It was really frustrating. I work all over Greater Manchester, I was constantly carrying spare shoes around with me. A colleague, Rachel Allen, and I decided to rebel. We decided to leave our trainers on at our desks, in meetings, and even in the big boardrooms. It was really interesting. People were curious. It turns out that shoes really matter to some people. Who knew? So Rachel, what do you do when something matters these days? You write a blog about it, don't you? So Rachel wrote a blog about a concept called enclothed cognition. You might have heard of it. I'd never heard of it. So Rachel knew from her psychology training that what we wear has the potential to change the way we think, and also the knock-on effect to change the way we behave. So Rachel had proof. If we wear trainers to work, we are more likely to move more and have an active day. Amazing. So there are all sorts, as you know, of kind of cultural barriers, expectations, rules and norms in the workplace. Even the Queen and Michelle Obama have shared their frustration at the expectation that they would wear high heels which are really uncomfortable just because they are in public life. Then there are our own fears and worries too. So I was concerned, do I look smart enough? Do I look professional enough? You know, are people going to take us seriously in our trainers at work? But I became braver. At our conference, I was hosting. I stood on the stage in the morning in my high heels, changed into my trainers for the lunchtime walk, and then thought, why am I changing back to speak to the same people in high heels just because I'm on a stage? So I decided to keep my trainers on for the first time. I did feel the need to explain myself, but the next conference I spoke at in London, I didn't even take work shoes with me. It was just becoming more normal. It continued a conversation. A colleague showed Rachel's blog to the Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, in the office, and it made him think too. Why don't we give permission for our employees to wear shoes to work that they're more likely to move in? So he did. And this is really important because senior leaders need to enable behaviour change and the health and well-being of their employees and set a good example. It became public policy across public services in Greater Manchester. You can wear trainers to work if you use them. We devoted a hashtag to hang this on. Hashtag #ActiveSouls1. It connected with the Greater Manchester Northern Soul identity. It gave us a really easy way to invite people to join in. So on Twitter and in conversations, the movement began to grow. People started to talk about what they were wearing on their feet and tweeting about it using the hashtag. It was brilliant to see. Next, we presented at the Greater Manchester Health and Care Board. Our chair, Stephen Pleasant, sent an invitation out to all members to come in their active souls, and many of them did. This meeting is huge. It's full of politicians and senior leaders and chief executives, but loads of them turned up in their trainers. It was great to see. We were announcing investment from Sport England into Greater Manchester, and the team spelled out 10 million in trainers. Now, patience is really important in movement building. Not everyone is going to join in straight away. This is Warren. He's a director in health services in Greater Manchester, and whilst he was supportive of the Active Souls movement, he was quite clear he was never going to join in. Warren is known and often talks about his suit, his tie pin, and quite critically, always has to wear a pair of very smart brogues. So he wasn't joining in. But as a special birthday approached, we decided that Warren could be a key influencer and catalyst for change. So we bought him a pair of smart suit trainers and asked him to join us. He received the gift with good grace and smiled at the little brogue detail that we made sure was on the trainers. He even went so far as to say he would wear them to work, but he didn't say when. Then, on the 1st of May, Warren tweeted, "Okay, I'm joining the GM Walking Festival in my smart new suit trainers. This may not seem much, but switching from brogues to smart trainers is like Dylan going electric." I hope you're all old enough to understand that joke in this room. So it was brilliant. Warren was on board. 2 days later, at the GM Moving Conference, we'd invited all delegates to come in their trainers so we could enjoy a lunchtime walk. And pretty much everybody did. Even the keynote speakers were in their trainers, including Andy Burnham and the Chief Executive of Sport England, and of course Warren in his tie and his tie pin with his brand new smart suit trainers. It was absolutely fantastic. Now, it's not all plain sailing. This is a bit of a sad story really, but one of our mayors, Laura Booth, was criticised for wearing her trainers. You can see she said that she's said to have received abuse for wearing her trainers, just because the expectation that she's in public life she should be wearing high heels, and what difference does it make? Why does it diminish our ability to do our job? It was great to see an absolutely outraged response from people across Greater Manchester and beyond, making it very clear to Laura she's considered to be a role model here, and that wearing trainers to work does not diminish your ability to do your job. You're actually spreading a really great message. She had over 6,000 notes of support and 1,000 retweets, and it helped to continue the conversation. So what? People are wearing trainers to work. Are we all just chilled out and not really working that hard? But no, actually people feel happier, more energised. People are checking in with us constantly. We've had nurses and surgeons and teachers and all kinds of people talking about what they're wearing on their feet and how it's helping them to move more. So Warren walks now on average over 2 kilometres a day further than he did before. Some people have ditched their car for active travel and public transport. At my daughter's school, the uniform is jeans, a hoodie and trainers. And I've seen over the years how this enables them to have more active school days. It's amazing. There is bags of evidence. Active people do better. Active people are less likely to get sick. They take less time off school and work. So there is an actual financial benefit for employers potentially of people wearing active soles. So what if, when we feel low, think back to where we started, instead of reaching for the biscuit tin or the glass of wine, we reach for our active soles instead? What if we all moved for 30 minutes a day, 60 minutes for our kids? But it doesn't have to be all in one go. It's about building it back into everyday life. 10 minutes at a time is enough. Brisk walking, getting your heart beating faster, feeling stronger. It's really, really that simple. The benefits would be immense. All of these things and more. Just look at that. All of that. Now, active soles are only one way, and not for everybody, although I would recommend it. They're only one way to get yourself an active life. So do find your way. It might be active soles, it might be something different. But when you find it, talk about it. Tell people how great you feel. And spread the word. Create your own movement. Create your own ripple effect. Start a conversation, because conversations do change the world. You can do small things that make a really big difference. And if you can do big things, because you're an employer, a leader, a head teacher, a politician, ask yourself with every decision you make, does this enable people to move more and live a healthier life? And if it doesn't, change it. So, let's start a revolution. Let's start it right now and do something really simple that you can all join in with. If you can, stand up. Just start to march on the spot. Get your heart beating. Get your brain re-energised. And then clap your hands as loud as you can. And sit down. You are now part of the Active Souls Revolution.
You see those shoes as well? Amazing. Who's wearing stilettos? Great. We need 5 chairs on the stage. Do we have any bits of help? This is Connor. We're not related. We're not twins, by the way. We're going to do a Q&A. So hopefully you can see TEDx Oldham website, submit some questions. We're going to get all our speakers back in. So if our speakers can come back in, please. If you can hear me, that'd be brilliant. And as they're coming in, can we have a round of applause for each and every person? Sure. Two more chairs. Come on, is this all we can do? No? Chairs. Sure, isn't it? This doesn't seem right, does it? Here we go. This is This is completely unrehearsed, as you can probably tell. It's going to sound rare. Okay. Got questions coming through via technology at the moment, but I was thinking we get a question for, oh God, you're terrifying. Well, a little bit more relaxed than we did a couple of hours ago, I'll give you that. Okay, so maybe a question to each of the speakers. So somebody who's not already submitted one, can I have a question for Joe?
Hi Joe.
Hi.
I'd love to know how you connected with your desire to live actively with the diagnosis that you got. Maybe another question, if you can as well. Do you feel that there's sort of a quantifiable difference between people who can do that and people who can't?
Just to answer your last one, yes, definitely a quantifiable difference, and my oncologist can actually vouch for that as well. And what was the other question, did you say?
How do you connect with the... You probably already have it naturally, but you
Yeah.
fully think, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I was already exercising. I think that was the issue. I was already doing this, and it came natural really to me to be able to just move that into, you know, recovery and living with a disease. So that's how I was able to do it, and that's why I want to motivate people into doing it, because I know the benefits myself, so I want other people to actually feel that as well. And because of the outcomes, what you can actually gain from that. You know, if you can reduce your own risk of recurrence, that's helping yourself. You know, there's a lot of other things that you can't control. But if you can do that yourself, then that's great. Thank you.
We promised to go for a run around that together, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to do it. Do you have a question for Sean Brown? You go.
Hi Sean, thank you for your session about making your own life. I thought it was great. How did you get to meet Lawrence Jones? Because sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time. I'd be interested to hear how that connection was made, how you came to working together and supporting each other.
Thank you. And yeah, I guess it was pretty lucky that I got to meet Lawrence. But part of the story I'd say is the foundations that I just blindly started trying to create Mercato. So when I met Lawrence at the agency I was working at, because we were going to do some social media work for him, and it was while in the meeting that he said to me, why do you work here? You've already built Hatch, you're kind of a bit of an entrepreneur, so why are you working for somebody? And I said, well actually I'm building another product and I use your hosting to store my product on and to serve it. And he says, oh, you're a customer of mine? I says, yeah. And he says, what are you building? He says, an e-commerce platform. And he says, oh, what, on Magento or like the competitors? He says, no, it's custom built, I built it myself. And he says, well, maybe you should come round to the house and we'll have a little chat. So the next Sunday I went round to his and we spoke for 6 hours straight. And he says, do you want investment? I says, not really. I want a business partner. And he says, what are the terms? He says, 50-50, I want a partner. And we put our hands out and we shook hands and yeah, that's a very happy ending.
Sean really does practice what he preaches. Just a little bit of a background story there. We had a speaker who made it all the way through to the finals, realised that he couldn't come to the talks. We were having a bit of a dilemma as to who do we put in. And this guy just kept tweeting, sending me DMs on Twitter. And I'm sorry, but you've not made the final cut. And it was really, really graceful with it, and just said, well, that's great, we'll have a coffee one day anyway, stay in touch, we're great to stay in touch sometime. That very same night, this speaker's pulled out. give him a shot. Send him a DM back, and he said, I will work as hard as you can possibly imagine. I will do anything. If I'm on the bench, that's absolutely fine. If I make it to the starting lineup, then I'll be really grateful for that. And I think he's done a great job, haven't he? Yeah. I'm conscious of time, and I know there's going to be lots of questions for this particular superstar in the making. Do we have a great question for Head of Crafts? I'm sure we do. Yes, we have one.
So kind of looking back, maybe before you were born, what thing would we not have done in the past that would make things better now? No pressure.
Good question. I think that, well, climate change, we've known about it for a very long time. It was in my geography lesson the other day. My teacher showed me an article where people were reporting about it back in 1912. So we've known about it for a very long time. But I'd say we just needed to switch to more alternative energy sources earlier. Like maybe in the 60s or 70s when it first started to really rise in the media, but we kind of had a laissez-faire, do-nothing sort of attitude towards it. But hopefully that will change, and is changing now.
Well, the next get goosebumps when she was shouting at us. I was getting in trouble. Sorry for wasting things. Question for the hilarious Ram Shankar. What was the word? Come on. Is there any in the audience on technology? What's your favourite colour, Ram? What's your favourite curry? That's not a serious one. I'm waiting for a good one.
Too many to choose from, really. All curries are good.
What's the most difficult word in the English language that you've had to learn? Spice.
Where do I begin? Quite a few difficult words. I mean, not necessarily. It's more than the words. It's what's said versus what's being meant. That's the difficult bit, rather than the words themselves. If that makes sense.
So I was just thinking about your Mums the Word model and wondering what was the most complicated situation that you used that model in, and what was the process that you went through then?
That was a bonus question, wasn't it? Wasn't expecting that. So, like I said, I mean, there was nothing is actually complicated as I'm telling. It's complex, and I think the most complex thing I've probably used it is generally finding my way around the country, the UK when I came in. Little things like the taxi that really happened. I mean, are you all right? It's more than the situation, one single situation. It's the whole question about how many such situations or phrases exist in this country and in this language that I need to get used to. Number one. Number two is, if what is being said is so different from what is being meant, how am I going to cope with it? And then thirdly, if this is how the society here is going to be, am I going to be a blithering idiot for the rest of my life? And that was by far making the transition from India to the UK. I think has been the most complex thing I've been through. I mean, I'm married today, so one drink to rule them all. So so moving to the UK and getting used to this culture here is by far the most complex thing I've been through. Thanks, so.
And how about in the lever? I mean, my question was, where did you get them from?
I need a picture of them. I'll explain.
No, it's not real. It's not genuine for me. So, question for Hayley. Okay, go on.
Tweet that later.
I really love the idea
and I'm just thinking about how it can be extended. And so I know you mentioned about school, and I remember being in school and being kind of explicitly told you have to have this kind of shoe as a girl. It was like a point. I remember you first bought it and it would just rub raw, and then you take like a slight run and it's flipped off somewhere. Like they were just so impractical. But it was so strict. It was so strictly enforced. Like it was kind of no negotiation. So realistically, do you think moving forward, schools would be open to it, kind of letting young people kind of start young and kind of move more from like that younger age?
Yeah, I'll just explain the trends first. So these sparkly Converse are actually belong to my next door neighbour. They're her wedding shoes. So I'll say a quick thank you to Jo Radley for sharing her marvellous shoes with me. I don't wear these to work, by the way. They're a bit too sparkly. But it's a great question. Sadly, people do what gets measured. And I think the potential route into that is that if leaders in schools and leaders in education, Department for Education, right at the top, understood the relationship between active kids and kids who do well in school and attainment, then we might have an inroad to that conversation. Unfortunately, people don't really necessarily get the link, and moving has absolutely been designed out of the school day and about how children get to school and get home from school. So that's why when I talk about the kind of influences on our activity levels, it's not enough for a child to decide that they want to do something, or a parent. It has to be policy, and that has to be at national level. I mean, we're doing some great stuff in Great Manchester to try and shift that, and some great conversations taking place nationally. But if people understood that, kids will get better grades, and if that's what you're bothered about, then help your kids become more active, not just in PE, like in the whole of their day, all the way through their day. And then I guess maybe, and we do see some examples of this, of schools that prove that can be the case. And I think sometimes it's about being able to kind of imagine and see examples of where it's being done and what impact it has. And then people go, oh, hang on a minute, why are we keeping our kids sitting down all day? And making, particularly girls, wear ridiculous shoes. And it costs us loads more money to buy. I bought endless amounts of school shoes for my daughters, and at their school, the fact that they can just wear trainers all the time is what they want to wear anyway. So that's just, it's halved our school shoe bill for the year.
Good answer. If we only buy half the amount of shoes, then that's better for the environment as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's less complicated as well, isn't it? Freestyling because I went for questions. Can you tell me? Looks like I'm not going to get any additional questions. So what I was thinking of doing is maybe a slightly longer Q&A in the afternoon with our next 5 speakers afterwards. Round of applause for our first 5 speakers. Do you think that's good enough to come back to the second half? Yeah? Have we done all right so far? Yeah? We'll stay after this. Doesn't joking. So we have a few updates. We'll give you social media updates later on. Don't forget to use the hashtag TEDx Oldham. We have some food which is supplied by If Oldham, Independent Futures Oldham. I was going to be handed a slip of paper to tell me a little bit more about that, and it hasn't arrived in my hand. So I'll tell you that it's beautiful food. They do really good stuff. They've helped us out in the past. And the food also, which isn't eaten today, will also go to helping feed the homeless people of Oldham as well, which is also a really good thing to do. I should probably tell you what time to return after this. Before I do, because I'm still waiting for a piece of paper. My colleagues have left me, and they're all embarrassed. Live stream around the world. Yeah, there's a few things. Okay, so where's Ruth?
She's in the room. She's in the green room.
She's in the green room tidying up.
Picking up the rubbish.
Yeah. So don't forget one piece of rubbish while you're out on your lunch. If you can send a photograph of you picking up a piece of rubbish, that would be really, really good as well. Hashtag TEDx Oldham. What was the hashtag? Just one piece of rubbish, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, if you can do that one, that'd be really good. We also want you to get moving as well, don't we, Haley?
Absolutely.
What should we do?
So, is it raining still?
I don't know.
I've got a brolly, so it would be fantastic if you could take some time, get some fresh air, get yourself re-energised over lunch. So have your lunch, go out for, I think we've got somebody who's going to kind of show us around if you don't know Oldham that well, and if you do, you can show me. So get yourselves moving, 10 minutes or more, it all counts. And then as you're going around, pick up some rubbish and then bring it back. So hashtag active souls, hashtag one piece of rubbish, hashtag TEDx Oldham.
Enough hashtags there? Just one question about hashtags as well.
Busy living with mates, yeah.
For the lovely Ruth Manager as well. Ruth, is it ONE piece of rubbish or number one?
Number one. One piece of rubbish. At least, if you're very brave and bold and excited about it all, then you can pick up as many as you like. Depends on the weather sometimes.
Brilliant. And what was that hashtag again?
Active souls.
Active souls. What was yours again?
Busy living with mates.
Busy living with mates.
Obviously,
you have hashtags there. You should have brought them. You're going to be tested on this later.
Tag it all in.
Brilliant. So thank you for staying with us for the first half. We'll see you at 1:15. Enjoy lunch.
Peer pressure, blah blah blah, that's what you use all the time. You use that all the time as an excuse. I actually said